Hey guys, so this is a little experiment I've wanted to do for a little while now, where basically I can sit down with my good friend Mark, who I met in Canada, and we can just have a chat and talk about what's going on in the parkour community currently and what we feel like. So while we're talking and having this conversation in general, I just wanted to put up some kind of footage from parkour-related video games. Some of you, but most of you may not know that I'm actually quite a big video gamer, and I always have been. And instead of watching movies or doing anything like that, I'll play video games instead, because I think video games are art and they are a completely amazing form of media in general. So this is just a series of gameplay from stuff I've been playing, which is Mirror's Edge, Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia, whatever it's going to be. I don't know yet, but yeah, you can have a little watch, and if you don't enjoy watching gameplay, you can always just shift over to another tab and just browse from Facebook or whatever you want to do. So yeah, so are you there, Mark?
I'm here. How's it going, guys?
So a lot of these guys don't really know who you are because they may or may not have seen the parkour tour, but at the very least you've not been featured on my channel before. So I thought I'd ask you 3 quick fire questions to kind of warm you up a little bit.
Sounds good.
So the first question is, what did you eat for breakfast?
I had hash browns and eggs and cheese melted together with some bacon.
Wow.
And and then I had a little protein shake.
Okay, and what colour are you wearing right now?
I'm wearing dark blue and light blue.
And what was the song you last listened to?
I last listened to Bounce by Busta Rhymes.
Wow, I have no idea what that is. Okay, so yeah, we've got 3 topics for today, and the 3 topics are, well, it's possibly 4 topics because one of them kind of blends together. But we've got Parkour Globe, we've got the launch of the Flow YouTube channel, and we've got what's happened with you out in Canada with the Forks, which is one of your spots that you've actually managed to get permission to train at. So if we start at Parkour Globe, what do you know about Parkour Globe?
Okay, so I don't know a lot about Parkour Globe, to be honest. I know they were messaging a bunch of guys. I know they messaged you, right?
Yes.
And basically they're just trying to get some funding. They're doing an Indiegogo thing, and they're getting some funding so they can develop their website. The basic concept behind Parkour Globe is connecting people and communities worldwide for travel, just to help people, aiding people with cheaper travel. So if one guy posts himself up as a host and another person says they're traveling, you can find out, I'm going to Mexico. Oh, well, what's his name in Mexico is going to be hosting, and his house is open from this week to that week. So it just makes things a little easier. It's kind of what we do anyways already through Facebook, but it makes it a little more convenient for finding other tracers and freerunners around the world.
Right, so it's almost
Convenient.
like a kind of, like a meet-up dating site almost, but for free runners. Where
What's that one you were talking about the other day?
There's one called Couchsurfing, which is a similar kind of thing, but in effect it is like kind of an international dating site, but instead of dating, you go out and train parkour instead.
Well, you can date too. You can date other freerunners.
all the dudes in parkour, just like
exactly.
lonely hearts. That's funny. But yeah, so it's kind of a cool idea because there is a lot of the time you do have people that want to travel somewhere, and especially in parkour, it's a lot of you have to know someone that knows a guy who will let you stay. So I think it is a nice idea. I mean, I think there are some potential flaws with it in the sense that the information does have to be current, and also like, imagine if you kind of pay $1,000 and you fly to England and then the guy flakes out on you just to you turn up at his house and he's like, yeah, you can't stay, sorry. So yeah, like there are some concerns I have about it, but that's more down to the person than the platform. But obviously like you could hear some horror stories which would obviously be awful.
Well, we kind of talked about this the other day, and I mean, I guess it's something that I kind of trust within parkour. I mean, I wouldn't do this necessarily. The whole couch surfing concept, going and staying with some other person, that's not as trustworthy to me. But with other freerunners, like for the most part, seem to be pretty cool guys that I've met all over the place. So yeah, I think I'd go for it. Maybe just talk to them a little bit first. Exchange some videos and just get to know each other a little bit online. Just kind of show an online presence if you're going to be a host. And just kind of get to know each other first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the community kind of like gets behind it, and a lot of the more reputable, well-known guys that have been training in these cities for however many years get involved, then there will be that kind of like credibility in general, because people will know these people's names and will know, oh well, I've seen this guy's videos for the last 4 or 5 years, so there's a bit more of a chance that it's going to work. But
I can just imagine all the little fanboys like lining up outside of Tim Sheaf's house.
Well, I mean, one of the bigger concerns is that, like, for example, as I've had before when I'm building, we used to do Parkour.com, you'd get our group's database and the information would go out of date so quickly, because all the new guys, the first thing they do, they make a team and they make a Facebook page and they make a group, and they tend not to last. So it's very easy for the information to go out of date, and then before you know it, your whole database is useless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do think concept. That it's a good idea, and I do hope they get the funding and it works. Because if it does work, it would be amazing.
Do you know the guys who are doing it?
No, I don't actually. They're Canadian, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. I kind of I looked at the guy's I guess his page on Indiegogo there and checked like who he signed up as, and it's this guy from Montreal, and we didn't have any mutual friends or anything on Facebook, or I think I tried searching him up, and I've never really heard of him, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, just because sometimes people do come out of nowhere, like.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just, I mean, Canada's usually a little more tight knit. I mean, especially with like the Breathe Parkour magazine, and I mean, we have all our summer jams in Toronto and Van City, and then in Winnipeg as well. So I mean, for the most part, like, I know someone in each province, kind of, So I mean, just the fact that I don't know any of the same people as him, I'm kind of like, oh, who is this guy? But like you're saying, I mean, it's kind of, people can show up out of nowhere and do good things. Right?
Oh, exactly. So. I always reference one of the films that I actually was really surprised by last year, which was by Cedric Dahl, which most people have seen now. It's called People in Motion, which is effectively an hour-long documentary on people moving around the US and parkour and different kind of aspects of parkour training, and it features this guy called Paul Whitecotton, who is. I had no idea who he was, and he's a closet beast, really, because he just turned up out of nowhere, and I thought that he had a very, very good skill level and a really cool mindset, and I just really appreciated following his journey through, because the video really was his journey, and just appreciated following him through that. So I just think that, like, you do get these people that come out of nowhere, and they have talent, and they have skill, and they're amazing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, because that kind of leads into what Flo is trying to do, right, on YouTube. But there's guys like that all over the place who just kind of show up out of nowhere and no one's ever heard of them. I mean, that it happens all the time. But no one had really even heard of Winnipeg as a parkour community at all. And then all of a sudden, we raised the money for Parkour Tour there. We met you. We shot those videos, and all of a sudden it's like, who the hell are these guys? Like, where did they come from? And that's just a really small example.
Big effect on you guys, hasn't it?
Oh, it's had a huge effect on us. I mean, like, we've got such a good response from people, and people wanting to come train with us, and it's so cool what it's done for us as a community. And it's just cool to think, like, how many people are all over the world that are just magnificent, but don't necessarily shoot videos, or don't they don't get as involved. They just kind of train for themselves or whatever, right? I mean, I guess that's probably there's probably more amazing freerunners around the world that aren't on video. There's it's
this is the thing. Talent. So I spent some time in Madrid. And I got there, and there's a guy there whose name is Espada, I think. His last name is Espada anyway, Miguel. And he was amazing, because he just had like some of the most ridiculous precisions that I'd seen in a long time. And I was like, wow, this dude is killing it. But he just said, he didn't speak masses of English, but from what I understood, the main point was that they don't really film videos because it just doesn't really interest them. Because like, for example, I just had a love for filming parkour videos, and that was the deal. But some guys just don't care. They just want to do the parkour, and that's absolutely fine. And it's completely, respectable to either just want to film parkour videos and not train, or to want to do parkour and not film, or to mishmash around both, because it's all just.
And guys like that are perfect for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a perfect opportunity for you to go out and shoot them, right? I mean, like, this Phil Doyle doesn't really make videos, right?
I mean, it depends. He likes the idea of making videos, and he does like to be in videos. But I think the thing with Phil is that he always likes the idea of making a show reel and puts some ideas towards it and thinks, okay, I want to do this, and then he'll kind of change his mind, or he will like, oh, I haven't got anyone to film, or so there are lots of things that get in the way of that.
Well, it's funny, his filming, like, I mean, has never like been that spectacular. It's usually just tripod and whatever, right? But his videos get such an amazing response, but that just really credits his skill, right? I mean,
exactly.
Because of his skill and who he is.
There are two or three different ways to kind of have an amazing parkour video. The movement can be ridiculous, or the filmmaking can be really nice, and the movement can be ridiculous, or the filmmaking can be really nice. Like there was today, I watched a video called Brave. It's a skateboarding film about a skateboarder who's blind. But the point was that, and I know it kind of had the crux that, hey, look, it's a blind skateboarder, which is of course in its own right amazing, but the actual skateboarding content itself wasn't particularly special because he's blind, so he can't be doing 360 heel flips. He's got to stick to his feet on the board. But what was nice about the film was that the cinematography was so good, and the whole film in general was just so tastefully put together. That it could have been about a guy who could see. It could have just been about a guy who was not very good at skateboarding, and the film would have been good. And I think that's kind of quite an interesting thought, because parkour videos really, I mean, this does feed into what I was going to talk about next. That parkour videos, I think, are kind of in two stages. They either need to be pure amazing movement content, which of course takes years and years to film, or they need to have something more than just a standard training day video, because I think we're a bit past that now. So
where would parkour be right now without YouTube, or without videos in general?
I know, that's a thought, isn't it? So talking about YouTube, there's a new YouTube channel come out a couple of days ago called Flow. And basically what Flow is, it's kind of an alliance between a load of the parkour guys, some of the more popular ones, and then also some of the ones that are quite talented but aren't quite so well known. And in effect, Flow is going to be this kind of hub for parkour and freerunning content. And I mean, I have some kind of involvement with it, and I know that Tim has a lot of involvement with it, and so does Damien Walters, Sam, and 3Run. And then there are other. I'm sure there are other things in the pipeline that I don't know about as well.
Well, you were here in Winnipeg. We talked about it. Well, right. It didn't exist yet, but I had said to you, how cool would it be if 3Run and Storm and all these guys met up and they started making videos together, and we laughed because like all of us just said, "Oh, that won't happen," right?
Well,
because it's not really in their best interest necessarily, right?
So the cool thing about Flow is, I mean, it does open the door for stuff to be happening, or at the very least, it's kind of, it opens the door for people that want to watch a lot of quality content from lots of different people can subscribe to one channel, and it'll all be on there. So that's kind of a nice kind of thing, just because obviously, from a practitioner standpoint, it's a whole new channel with lots and lots of choice content from lots of different people. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. So, I mean, yeah, that was kind of interesting to see. They've already put up the first episode of Walters and Sheaf, which is now back, which I always really enjoy those series, just because I mean, anything with Damien Walters in is always incredible anyway. But it's nice to see something that hasn't got the kind of ridiculous choral dubstep over it, and instead it shows a bit more playful side to the gym. Just because, like, that's kind of the most, for me, that's the most interesting thing, is when you see stuff that's kind of weird. Like, I mean, in that episode they were playing tennis while doing tricks, but it was like football tennis while tricking. And I found that far more enjoyable than like another ridiculous showreel, just because I think that sense of playfulness with movement is really special.
Yeah, it was cool to see them go beyond getting undressed on a trampoline. And no, I'm kidding. They, the videos they make are always so playful, and it just shows this. I think it's really cool because I know a lot of gymnasts who come from a gymnastics background, and they're very they're strictly point your toes and stay away from breakdancers and anyone with style. So it's really cool to see a gymnast like Damien, who's just totally open to learn so many new things. And God, does that guy ever know movement? He can expand way beyond his tumbling and his gymnastics. He's yeah, really, he's the ultimate, proprioception. He's the perfect. He knows his body so well, and
Oh,
he seems
totally.
to be able to do just about anything. So super impressive athlete, and then to meet up with someone like Tim, just like I can't imagine all the things they could come up with, and I'm really glad they're doing what they're doing. So
So the actual cool thing for this Flow channel is that I've been asked to make some films, and I've just finished the first one. And the first one is a 15-minute long documentary. It's called Point of Contact. It was written by TK17, who some of the newer guys may not recognise the name, but a lot of the older guys will definitely know. He's a guy from North Carolina. His first name's Duncan, but he's an amazing writer, and he's always been making these brilliant parkour films anyway. One of them was called Pilgrimage, which in itself is an hour-long documentary on lease. But I was having a chat with him about some ideas, what would be cool to make a documentary on, because he's always full of ideas for good stuff like that. So we have a chat, and he talks about how he thinks it's so interesting that when you kind of do parkour, you'll land in certain spots on your body, like, for example, the very, not quite the balls of your feet, but it is effectively the balls of your feet with a rail precision. Or when you do an arm jump, you'll be landing on your fingertips and maybe your palms a little bit. And how that's completely at odds with most other practices. I mean, gymnastics and rock climbing share some similarities, but in essence, the point is that in parkour there are very specific ways of interacting with your environment. So we have a chat, and he writes me this kind of like rough idea of the script and stuff, and I kind of and I make the film. So it's quite an interesting project for me, because the start to finish time was 10 days. So, I got the script, and then a couple of days later we shot it, and then I edited it, and then it was done in about 10 days, which is quite a fast turnaround for a video of that length. And it's something that I'm not really used to, working that kind of length of a video with that kind of turnaround. But it was a very, very enjoyable project, actually, just because you do get this kind of like, the satisfaction of putting out something that is more educational to a practitioner than another montage, or something that's more lifestyle based.
yeah, I mean, all around the video turned out really, really well.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm in it, so that makes for a fantastic video to begin with, right? So that automatically gives the video a lot of points. Just having Selbs in it. I mean, I'm shocked like that. I did it for free, but I mean, that's at least like a contract deal normally,
You sent me one clip. Oh dear.
No, the video all around is amazing. The writing is really, really good, and it makes you think about things that you normally don't think about in movement. How he talks about the points of contact in that's obviously goes to the name of the video, right? But just the points of contact in a movement. He talks about climbing. He goes, there's always 3 points of contact, 2 feet and a hand, etc. So it's kind of cool. He makes you think about things that normally just kind of happen on their own.
And also the nice thing is that the whole video is illustrated by some beautiful GoPro footage that my friend James got, which is, this was all on the GoPro too, but there are some amazing stuff, just because Cambridge itself has amazing rooftops anyway. So you combine that with kind of, James doing his GoPro thing, and then me filming him as well, and like it does kind of illustrate the whole flow of a run so much better than filming in third person, which is something that I've never really done before. I up until now, GoPros have not interested me because the quality just hasn't been high enough. Because you put on a strap and it's wobbly, or the camera itself is blurry, and there's not many frame rates, and they're not very sharp, especially the early ones. So yeah, kind of using GoPros was amazing in this instance. Okay, so for the last thing, I wanted to talk to you about the Forks. So for people that don't know, the Forks is probably the kind of main central spot in Winnipeg. I mean, every city has like a meeting spot anyway. Like the main spot that people go to, like you've got IMAX in London, for example, or Lion Rails in Cambridge.
The Forks is our IMAX,
and so you have this kind of these spots, which everyone gravitates to as a central spot, and the Forks in Canada is one of them. So, if you want to tell us about kind of what the story with the Forks was, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so I think it's probably appropriate for me to explain really what the Forks is first. So the Forks is it's called the Forks because it's where 2 rivers meet, the Assiniboine and the Red River. and that's where fur trades used to happen in Canada. And I know that also it sounds kind of silly to people who aren't from Canada, but anyways, our voyageurs would meet up and do fur trades. So that's kind of how Winnipeg actually started. These two rivers met up, and that's where the whole market was for that. So Winnipeg grew beyond that, and to this day we have the Forks, which is basically a marketplace and a general meeting up place. And whenever tourists come into Winnipeg, there's a lot to do there. There's different restaurants and just general tourist attractions. But one of the things at the Forks is this big celebration circle of these rocks called the Odina. And it's a native celebration circle where they do powwows and different things like that. You see it in movies, I'm sure. But powwows are just these cool events they do where everyone dresses up in all the feathers and the kind of extravagant outfits. And they have the drumming, native drumming, and native singing. And it's just the whole culture side of things. And anyways, these big rocks, they get used a few times a year, but they don't have a lot of use beyond that. Like a lot of photography happens there, and a lot of people just like climbing around on the rocks and whatever. But anyways, we've got a huge use of it. I mean, it's the perfect parkour paradise. There's about 15 rocks around the whole thing, and they're huge. There's wall runs on each and every one of them. There's cat leaps, cat to cat. There's big tack to cats. And arm jumps, and I still screw that up.
But anyways, basically, I mean, yeah. So to kind of summarize, the Odina is in effect it's a massive rocky
parkour
kind of
playground
in a city space, which is kind of interesting because it's unlike any of the other parkour spots you have in the city, right?
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg is kind of a bland place for parkour to begin with. So I mean, there are cool spots, but they're very spread out. There's not a lot of continuous movement. And like, say, a roof route, that is not really a possible concept in Winnipeg. Nothing like Cambridge. So,
exactly, because all your streets are so wide,
Exactly. So for us, the Odina is the best spot that we have, and we train there a lot. And basically, what happened is the Forks. It's a privately owned place now. And,
it's effectively a shopping centre, isn't it? Like
it really is. There's a lot of shops there. There's a lot of restaurants. But basically, what we were dealing with for years now, I mean, I've been training for over 9 years, and since I started, we've been getting kicked out of the Forks all the time. So it'll go 2 years without any serious problems where we just, there's a security staff that we get to know eventually. And then, a year rolls around and they all quit and they move on to police academy or whatever. They hire a whole new batch of teenagers to secure this place. And we go through the whole thing again of explaining what parkour is and this and that. But in the last while, we've been really unfortunate where we've dealt with a lot of really crappy security guards who just really ignorant people, don't want to hear what we have to say. And it's just fight after fight after fight. So we went ahead and started messaging the owners of the Forks. And they obviously knew who we were, and they said they're really glad we came to them finally, right? So me and Guy, if you guys watched the fantastic gymnastics episode of Parkour Tour, he's the owner of the gym there. And he's just a really, really good guy altogether and helps us out with a lot of community stuff. So me and Guy got together and we went and had a meeting at the Forks with the owners and the security people. And we talked about what parkour is. It's not a dangerous sport if it's practiced correctly, and basically just I guess tried to make it a legitimate sport in their eyes. So anyways, we did that, and they really liked it, and then they ended up making a rule that now parkour is allowed at the Forks. They called in all their security, and I had to explain to them what parkour is, and it was kind of nice. It was kind of like in your face because a lot of them are guys who have kicked me out before, threatened to bar me from the Forks, etc. So now I'm telling them what we are and aren't allowed to do. Yeah, the tables have turned.
Kind of turning the tables, because obviously, I mean, in England at least, it's almost certain that would never happen, simply because there is a much bigger health and safety, culture out here where all the corporations are absolutely terrified to let anyone do anything, because if any injury happens, not even to the people training, but any member of the public complains, there's this massive, massive thing about it. So the only places that I could say in Cambridge we actually have express permission to train on are there's a church that the minister said, it's okay, we can train on his walls. It's not actually the church walls; it's the garage next to the church. But basically, yeah, that's kind of the only space that we have express permission to train on. Otherwise, it's either we have permission because it's public land, or it's we don't have permission and we have to kind of handle that accordingly to leaving or security's whims, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I know this was kind of a bit of a scattered conversation and we kind of weren't sure where we're going with it, but that's kind of the whole point of this experiment idea, is that we wanted somewhere where we could have a chat, talk about what's going on in a format that's quite easy for people to see. They can just view it on YouTube, and, they can, like, just watch the video or close to another tab or whatever. And, yeah, just kind of enjoy it. So, yeah, if you enjoyed it, leave a comment on what you'd like us to talk about next time. Also, leave a comment on anything if you think there's anything we could change, make it better. Maybe you want us to, I don't know, have a quick fire questions round or a game show, or we should get points through. I don't know, anything. But yeah, the more you kind of interact with us, the more we want to interact with you, and then we can have a chat and just kind of talk and just, enjoy the fact that we can communicate in general. And also, if you'd like to actually be on the show, or it's not really a show, is it? I mean, come on, it's flipping two dudes talking over some gameplay. But basically, if you'd like to have a chat with us on Skype, and you think you'd be an interesting person for us to talk to, then send us a message, because we'd like to talk to you as well.
All right, guys, thanks for listening.